Good morning. This morning has already been so much fun. I hope you all are having a good morning. The way that I kind of want these coffee meetings to go, once we start gathering some more people and have the little community, is I just want us to be able to just hang out. Hang out, have a cup of coffee, talk about our days, what we're up to this morning. And it was so much fun. I didn't record it, but Tatiana popped in for a little bit and it was just a beautiful way to start the morning. So once we start gathering some more people, I probably won't record them anymore and I'll just have it be the nice little community together. We can just hang out for 30 minutes and talk and laugh and goof off. That's all I want. I think that just sounds beautiful, and the 15 minutes I just had with Tatiana just made my day. So once we start gathering more people, it'll become a little bit more organic and not as structured as it has been lately, just because most of the time it's been just me. So I got to talk about something. So, it won't be as structured. It'll be here and there, little bits of lecture, but most of it, I just want us to communicate and get to know one another and hang out and enjoy each other's company on Friday morning. So, with all of that aside, if you have your coffee, my coffee's almost gone, but if you have your coffee, go ahead and get it. Come to a comfortable place. We're going to talk about balance today. So this was requested on Instagram to be an incorporation of physical balance and having some mental balance. And this is something that ties in everywhere. It affects every single part of you. So when you are off balance, you feel it everywhere. You feel it in your sleep schedule. You feel it in the way you eat, the way you communicate. You feel it in your physical practice. It affects you everywhere. So I just want you to take a moment as you settle in to think about what comes to mind for you when you think of balance. Does your mind wander dominantly towards the physical sense of balance? A feeling even when you walk or come into a pose? Or do you think of the mental side of balance, where you have a sense of ease in your life? Both of these, of course, are correct, right? We're going to touch base on both and hopefully be able to grasp a couple of tools to bring a sense of balance to your practice on and off of your mat. That's what we want all the time, that feeling that we have after a practice, that feeling that we have after we come out of Shavasana. We want to feel that all of the time, but it's so hard to keep a grasp on it, right? Edgar, it's so hard to keep a grasp on that. So, Edgar, calm down, buddy. Can't with this kid. I can't with him. So, the first thing I want you to acknowledge is that you know when you mentally feel off, right? Like you feel anxious, you feel stressed. Everything seems to just be piling on with no relief. You feel like everything's going wrong, you can't do anything right. You feel trapped. When we aren't finding that balance, it can start to disrupt everything, right? Like what I said earlier, it affects your sleep. You either oversleep, where you just are tired all of the time, or you're up all the time. You have that panic adrenaline, right? Your fight or flight kicks in and you're awake all night. You have that hyperactive personality that comes out of nowhere where you just have so much energy. It's just a big ball of anxiety. You have no control over it. Irrational, impulsive, these types of things can come up. But when these things are happening and you're not acknowledging that they're happening, you're not communicating with your body. So I want you to start to actually listen to the plane going over. I want you to start to actually feel that anxiety and try to figure out where it is stemming from. There's been so many times where I'll just be in a mood and my body will know I'm in a mood. I'll acknowledge that I'm in a mood, but I haven't figured out why yet. And I'll say that out loud. Like if Cameron asks me, what's wrong? Like something's wrong. I just don't know why yet. Or I feel really anxious. I just don't know why yet. And I try to figure out why I'm feeling this way. And it usually will hit me in the middle of the night at 3:00 in the morning. I'll wake up and be like, this is why I'm sad. But you have to be able to acknowledge those emotions in order to confront them and find a solution. So that's the first little step in trying to find some balance, is actually communicating with the way you are feeling. Don't just say, I have anxiety, period. But do you have anxiety every day? I know that I do. But you have to be able to find a way around it and be able to still live your life and feel happy and comfortable and balanced, right? You have to be able to work with the anxiety that you were given. So when I'm feeling this way, and I'm just talking about a couple of tools that worked for me. And, feel free to send me a message or comment on the video or however you want to do it. And let me know what ways work for you. Because you could have the best plan in the world that I haven't figured out yet for myself, and it might work really well. And the same goes for what I'm about to share with you. Some of these things are really obvious. And you might even notice that throughout these weeks of discussions that it's very repetitive. Everything's always the same. Everything has the same solutions. It's just putting it into practice. Actually just doing it. And it always sounds easier on paper than it is in real life. Everything's always, making a plan always sounds beautiful until you have to put it into action. So the top thing that I do when I feel off balance is I disconnect. Because I am one of those people where it affects me so heavily emotionally that it's almost debilitating, right? And if you are one of those people that are, blessed to have chronic anxiety or depression or PTSD, whatever it may be, being off balance is you feel it. And you have to force yourself to take a step back. Once you are able to acknowledge that that's what's going on, you have to force yourself to take a step back, even if you don't want to. I am stubborn. I am not a nappy person. I am not somebody that can just chill out. I need to be doing things all the time. So for me to disconnect, it's really hard. And especially with the business that I decided to jump into, being virtual, which I love so much. I love being virtual. I never in my life thought that I would love being virtual. But it is a lot of work to be virtual, especially with how heavy it is with screen time. Now, just in a regular day, say you don't work virtually, you work a 9 to 5, screen time is still so heavy just in society, period, with social media. The way we get information, the way we communicate is all screen time. So for those of us that work virtually or are constantly in front of a screen, it's overwhelming. So an example again for me, I run 2 YouTube channels, I have this Patreon, and I run my Instagram. Being virtual means you have to constantly be relevant, be current, always on to be able to grow your business. So to keep that balance, I don't work on the weekends. I don't teach any classes. I hardly even do my personal practice on the weekends. I'll meditate in the morning, and that's the extent of it. And I try not to share much of my life on the weekends. And I try really hard to keep my phone somewhere else. It could be in a different room or just plugged in somewhere just away from me, so it's not constantly right here. The same goes for my computer. The same honestly goes for the TV or anything else. I don't really watch much TV, but still, I try to keep everything off, and it's like a dominant music environment so that I'm not constantly with that too much stimulus. So it's important once you start to listen to also start to disconnect and give yourself that space. Another thing that works for me really, really well is making lists. Now, I grew up in a household that was very big on list making. My dad is huge on making lists no matter what it is. He either has a to-do list or a pros and cons list or some kind of list going on of what needs to get done or what he does and doesn't want to do. So I'm very lucky to have that kind of mental structure of always seeing that kind of organization. And that has been huge lately because I tried to, for the longest time, just freehand it, right? Like you just say, I got to get all this stuff done today. And then you're like, oh my God, I still have to get this and this and this and this and this done. I've only got one thing done off of your mental list. Once you actually write it out and figure out what absolutely needs to get done today, and the satisfaction of crossing that stuff off and having a sheet of paper that is just covered in scratches, it's so gratifying. And you actually get to put into perspective of what is important. So for my to-do lists, I'll have work stuff on there, but I'll also have things like make my bed, eat lunch. I'm one of those people where I will just forget to eat. I'll get so wrapped up in something that I'll forget to eat, and then I'm not nourishing myself to keep a happy body. When you forget to do those things, what happens? You also start to build that anxiety back up. So I write little things like that may not seem important. Drink water, take my medicine, sit down and read, go outside, go for a walk, meditate, things that are important instead of just work things. Because then you're also prioritizing your mental health alongside your work. And it doesn't matter when those things get done, as long as you actually do them. That puts you at the forefront to blend it all in. That's worked so well for me, especially the last couple of weeks where I've been a little bit overwhelmed with life, period. It happens. It's so nice to be able to put yourself into that forefront perspective, taking care of yourself and taking care of your household and what you need to get done. Things that make you feel good are still a priority on your to-do list. And the same goes for pros and cons. There's this whole thing going on lately where, especially in the yoga industry, you feel the need to say yes to everything. And it can be so like you can't breathe because you're stretching yourself so thin. So if you are a yoga instructor on here, I want to just invite you, take a step back. Do you actually want to do that? Does this, free class 2 times a week, does that actually honor you in your space? Do you actually have the mental space to do it? Or are you doing it because you don't want to disappoint some studio owner? You have to start to honor your mental health first. And that's when a pros and cons list comes into hand for me. I had to write one pretty hefty one a couple of months ago when I decided to leave the studio and start my own thing. You have to be able to put those things into perspective and figure out what is actually worth your time and what is just absorbing your energy. And that will honestly bring you so much balance. And it might be really hard to do at first, to actually say it out loud and actually go through with telling someone no. But once you do it, you get such a sense of relief. So that'll get rid of so much stress. So those are 2 huge things that help bring balance for me in my mental space. Now, your mental space will also drastically affect your physical space. So there's so many people that come into a yoga class because they are stressed, right? I'm going to use this example because I'd never seen anything like it before, and watching it was fascinating. So a couple of months ago, I had a student in class, and it was just me and her, and we were going virtual. I was working with a studio, and she was so angry. Just body language, very aggressive body language. And she was forcing herself into these poses so aggressively. And I just kind of kept reminding, hey, it's okay. Just listen to your body. Does your body want to be doing that right now? Let's try doing this instead. Does this feel better? No, she would not listen to me. She was going to get into that pose. She didn't care if it felt good, if it was going to be relaxing to her and center her, or any of the benefits that you could possibly get, right? When you come into tree pose, which is what we were doing, you have to focus. You have to connect to your breath. You have to be present for yourself. But she just could not get into the space. And she just wanted to be able to at least check it off for her day that she went to yoga, which I respect that. She didn't stop. But I know that she didn't get that sense of purpose and ease that she could have gotten. And she had taken a step back and listened. So when you are stressed in your life, when you are off balance in your life, it comes to your physical practice. It shows. You might not think it shows, but it shows. The instructor can see it. The people in the room, if you're in a studio, they can feel it. That it is just this bubble around you that is like, don't touch me, don't look at me. I'm going to do this and then I'm going to leave. You know, you don't allow yourself to relax. And I use that example because one, it's so engraved in my mind. I'd never seen anything like it before. It's so, can you stop? It's so important to be able to communicate with yourself. Allow yourself, if you're coming to your mat, to at least try to breathe and connect instead of forcing. When you come into balancing postures, right? We're going to talk about the physical practice. When you come into balancing postures, any kind of balancing posture, even if you're on tabletop, that's considered balance. That's hard for some people. You have to be able to focus. You have to be able to, find that drishti point, find that point of focus, wherever it is in your room, whether it's your mat, up to the sky, wherever it is, and connect to the breath in order to come into it. And if you can't get there, that's going to distract you completely for the rest of your practice. And I've been in positions where, you're forcing yourself into dancer. You're like, this isn't working, but it's fine. I fell out of the pose in class the other day because I came in it too fast. You have to give yourself that space and that self-respect to be like, okay, I'm just going to ease my way into this. I'm going to try to focus. And that's where affirmations come into place, setting intentions come into place, genuinely finding that point of focus. Have you ever tried getting into a balance pose and just darting your eyes around? It's so hard. So those kind of cues, those mental cues for yourself are so important in order to have that physical balance. And I talk a lot in classes of balancing, shifting from side to side every day. People get so mad that it's easier on one side than the other. Why isn't this side cooperating? It worked on the other side. Because it shifts. Just like it does in the mental state. Your balance shifts day to day. Things happen. Life happens. You just have to communicate. Go easy on yourself. So they all tie into each other. They both affect one another. Say you come into your yoga practice and you just thought it was a terrible class. You didn't connect with the instructor. You didn't connect with the movements. It's all over the place, right? You came in there with a good space and you left with a bad mental space. That can affect the whole rest of your day. Throw you off. Like, I really wanted this and I didn't get it. And now you're off. Instead of just accepting. Breathing. Bringing it back to center. I'd be like, well, I didn't connect with that instructor. Maybe I won't go to her class again. Maybe I'll go home and I'll meditate to try to recenter myself because that just didn't do it. They both go hand in hand, the physical and mental balance. So I invite you this weekend, if you're feeling overwhelmed, disconnect for a little bit. Go for a walk. Even if you disconnect for an hour, give yourself that mental clarity to get away from whatever is stressing you out. Set aside a space in your house where you can have that privacy to meditate and to practice and to be in your own element. Even if it's just a place to disconnect to read. You don't always have to be practicing in order to connect with yourself. Just set aside a space to be with yourself. Be your own friend, right? So we're all trying to be. Just be our best friend. Put yourself first. Start making lists throughout the week. What do you actually have to get done? What do you really have to do today? And maybe that'll help get a little bit balanced. Eat a meal that makes you feel good instead of one that makes you feel sluggish. What you put into your body, it goes to everything. If you're constantly eating junk, you're gonna feel like junk. Eat something yummy, drink some water, set aside some space. Those are things that help me with my balance. Little tips that have helped me recently. Because for so long, I just was spiraling. And it's so easy to spiral and just stay in that mindset. But once you start honoring that space of saying no and doing things that genuinely make you happy, it gets easier. It's hard at first, but it gets easier, and you'll be shocked at the opportunities that come forward once you make yourself a priority. So that's all I got today. That's all I got for balance. If there's anything else that you guys do that really helps you, share it with me. I would love to hear what keeps you balanced or what brings you back into focus when things start getting a little heavy. Background noise can be so damaging. Setting those affirmations, those intentions for the day, and truly implementing them on and off the mat is so important. And for so long, I didn't understand it. So I have that benefit now of understanding and sharing with you what works for me, and hopefully it works for you. But that's all I got today, guys. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you all on Monday for our live class. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.